What is going on, folks? Will Turbot here, aka the young L. Ron Hubbard. Fake Mike, real news. Didn't even let that one bounce. I went straight to the catch here. And you know what? I just gonna be upfront. I have been. I know it doesn't look like it, but because it's like, who is this young jerk? But I've been in this business, if you can call it a business. I've been in this game, activism in every nonviolent source. If you're just finding this video because a lot of people are just tuning in here because of Fritz Springmeier, what are we standing for here at Fake Mike Real News? We're trying to create a more altruistic world through nonviolence in the Socratic method. So I've been doing everything within my power, within those parameters, to try to create that more altruistic world. And I've interviewed a bunch of people. I've been on everything from small radio shows that I hosted to ones that were international and that were syndicated that I co-hosted. I've I've been interviewing tons of fancy ass people for a long time. Just recently, check out the videos. We've interviewed historians, U.S. diplomats. We have the last interview with John McAfee. We got interviews with Jordan Maxwell, NSA whistleblowers, CIA whistleblowers, the guy that created email, Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece. We got some of the dopest interviews you've ever seen. But if you don't know who Fritz Springmeier is and you're turning in because you like some of the other type of videos that I do, well, you're in for a treat. Because Fritz Springmeier is the guy that predicted all of this. I am always honored to even just talk to Fritz Springmeier. We're all standing on his shoulders. This guy's been speaking out against the powers that shouldn't be for decades, decades and decades and decades. He wrote the book Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Today we're going to be focusing on the future of the Illuminati. So if you guys want to find out, what is the Illuminati, who are the Illuminati, make sure to purchase Fritz's book. Links are going to be in the descriptions. Also to Fritz's GoFundMe. And the reason I'm bringing all this long, convoluted intro up is Fritz is a legend. I always say this every time, but the first time I had Fritz on my radio show, I literally couldn't sleep the night before. It was like I was a little kid. I was like, oh my God, Fritz Springmeier is going to be on my show tomorrow. This is so dope. So everyone support the links. I just want to let you guys know, in all the years that I've been doing this, I've never had such difficulty connecting with the guests. We literally tried for an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes last night to connect on several different platforms, and it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. So that tells me, and not only that, to give you some context here, his website has been recently attacked. He's been somebody that has been politically targeted for decades on record. He's also been, his Facebook's been attacked. He's been personally attacked. And several of the details, which I won't go into here, he's being attacked from all angles. Why? Because this man has been brave and courageous enough to speak out and tell others what's really going on instead of selling out. And I support the people that do that. And Fritz is a legend among legends. So it's always an honor to have Fritz here. But the reason I say this is it's been quite a pickle to get Fritz on, especially this time, because he's talking. So this is very important that you guys share these videos. We have other videos with Fritz on the channel. Go to pentracks.com. Pentracks, pentracks.com, pentracks.com, links in the description, as well as his GoFundMe. Fritz needs your help. He's been putting his life on the line, his family, his jobs, everything that he's done. He's put his physical life, his financial life on the line so that he could tell you what's really going on and expose the truth and expose tyranny, because that's what God called him to do. Now, I'm not necessarily a Christian, but I definitely admire that. And I do believe in a higher power. And so please support the GoFundMe. Please find Fritz's books, his articles, his videos, his work on pentracks.com. And Fritz, again, thank you so much for being here and allowing me to do this video with you. As always, Fake Mike Real News is your conduit. Whenever you want to get a message out, whenever you want to take it over without me here, it's always up to you. And if they want to find out about the Illuminati, they can definitely do that with your other books, your videos. You're one of the few people that actually names names too. So thank you for that. So people say, who are they? Who are they? Well, Fritz names names, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, Fritz Springmeier. Check it out at pentracks.com. So Fritz, now we're going to shift gears and go into the future of what these people have planned to do. These people have been planning our world for at least a couple hundred years. You might say longer or shorter. I'm not sure what your take is on that. But bare minimum, at least a couple hundred years, how they wanted to do this. And it's all in writing. You expose us all. And the thing about Fritz Springmeier, I'm sorry, I'm gushing, I'm ranting and raving here, is he cites his work, and it's all stuff that you can verify. So Fritz, going into this brave new world, especially after this pandemic, what is the future plans of the Illuminati? What does the Earth look like in the next few couple years, couple decades, couple hundred years?
Yeah, we'll get into the different time frames. First, I want to say hello to all your listeners. And Will, thank you for that great introduction. I'm not sure I can live up to it. You set the bar there pretty high for me.
No, honestly, Fritz, what, like I say behind the scenes, I've said it to you. You were one of those people when I was first waking up, and back when YouTube was uncensored. I won't get into the full story here, but I started looking stuff up, and you were one of the few names that came up. And your presentations, and they're even difficult to find on YouTube as well, too. And people have also hacked those, they've hijacked those, they've made money off of your name and given you nothing. So that's why it's important to support the GoFundMe, guys. Seriously, the links are in the description. Tell them Fake Mike Real News sent you. You truly are a legend. Like when I look at any profession, whether it be music, right? Especially nowadays, music is a thing where, hey, you say you disrespect women, you talk about selling drugs and talk about all this nefarious stuff. Well, hey, we'll put you at number one. But if you're talking about real stuff that the man doesn't want you to hear, well, you're not going to sell a billion records. You're not going to get a billion views on YouTube. So I support the artists that instead of compromising their integrity, they do what's right and they make pure art. And what you've done is even better than pure art, because you've given people factual evidence backed up for years with books, with presentations, with lectures about what's really been going on. You've predicted it all, Fritz, and I appreciate your modesty. You predicted the literal world that we're living in. And now it's crazy because we're in 2023 and we get to look into the future with Fritz Springmeier. So this is special, guys. So share this video, please.
Okay. And before I dive into things, I want to give a little bit of context. A lot of times when I speak, I'm just piling on all of this, what some people would say was negativity or causes some people to have fear. And that's not where I'm trying to go. Because there's Illuminati Kingpin. He said that the only time people are evolving is when they're afraid. And so they're going to try to scare us out of our wits. And that's not my goal. My goal is not to scare you out of your wits. And if we go to the scriptures, we see it constantly tells us not to have fear. And in fact, Job complained that the thing he feared came upon him. So that's not where I'm trying to take you. But I do.
Fritz,
go ahead. Yeah, Will.
It can never be negative. The truth can never, ever be negative. If someone's telling you the truth, it just can't be a negative thing. When we live in this world of chemicals in the food, in the water, and the propaganda from the academia, from the news, from Hollywood, they're all telling you lies. We're just telling you the hard truths here. That's what Fritz is telling you, the hard truth. And so it can never be perceived as negative, because when you're telling people the truth, that's never a negative thing. So I'm sorry to do that. I'm going to shut the hell up, Fritz. It's not a negative thing. It's a good thing. Share the video.
So a little bit more about the larger context. God's still on his throne. He's doing things. He's showing mankind that we're not capable of taking care of ourselves. We actually need him. And there's a lot of things that we should be doing with ourselves. You know, like Will was saying, we want to be nonviolent, but that doesn't mean that we can't be proactive and get a lot done. Christ was he never ran from the enemy, and he didn't fight with the enemy, but he stood up and he was proactive. And if people will take the moral high ground, there's a lot of power in the moral high ground. So
he was flipping tables
hope
from the bankers, flipping the tables. Jesus was proactive.
Yeah, he was proactive. And we need to have hope, because it says in Romans that we're saved through hope, and it also says that the word of God gives us hope. So read your Bible and see the things that it has to share with you on courage and hope. And Christ said, I have overcome the world, don't fear. And so that's the attitude that we should have. We should walk forward in faith. And it says in 1 John 4:5, it says, faith is what overcomes the world. So, you know, you need to find out what faith is. Faith is what David had when he went up against Goliath. Faith was what Daniel had when he told the king, who was basically the ruler of the world power back then. He said, you know, I'm not going to eat your food. I'm going to eat mine, because your worldly food is not healthy and mine is. In fact, that still pertains to today. The world is just shoving all kinds of tainted food down our throats, and people are just gobbling it up. You can go to past McDonald's here, and they're lined up as far as they can. Everybody's wanting to get their portion of McDonald's food, without any awareness of how it's going to damage their health. So we need to be doing what we should be doing, and we need to walk forward in faith with God. Now, does that work? Well, where are they taking us? I'm going to talk some about the World Economic Forum, which the leadership of the World Economic Forum is just Illuminati. People like Klaus Schwab, they're Illuminati. Christine Lagarde, I'll talk about her maybe. She's Illuminati. A lot of these people that I see running the World Economic Forum, I know that they're Illuminati members. And I read somewhere that the end goal of these mega corporations, where they want to take us, in other words, where does the World Economic Forum want to take us? To where communist China is. Okay, so what's communist China like? You know, let's just look at a quick spiritual religious look at Red China, because it's, even though the Christians there are under tremendous amount of pressure, they are very strong. They're very strong spiritually. Now, the government's created their own version of the Bible, and they have their own official approved churches. So the three self-patriotic movement are the churches, the state churches that are approved. If you're a minister in that, in one of those state-approved churches, you have to submit your sermon to the state for approval. And you are not allowed to preach that God created the earth. You are not allowed to preach that Christ is going to come again. So there's limitations on what you can preach. There's limitations on what you can do in church too. You can't heal in Christ's name. No spiritual healing. So there's 45, this is the figure somebody's come up with, 45 million Christians in Red China. There's more Christians than there are Communist Party members. And you get a lot of benefits from being a Communist Party member. Quite a few Communist Party members don't even believe in the ideology. They just want all the benefits that come with being a party member. So in spite of everything, you see a lot of Christians. There's an area of China south of Shanghai, and it's Xinjiang province, and it is 30% Christian. There's another province to the north of there in North China, which is also a heavily Christian, and these people are solid. They're not like the Christians in the United States that are so flaky. So this is where we're going. We're headed towards where Red China is, and I'm just telling you that you can do it. You know, in spite of what's coming down the pike, you can remain faithful to Christ, to your conscience, and you don't have to walk in fear. Now, I recently wrote an article that was on my website, Death by Dialectic, or Destruction by Dialectic. Excuse me, I think it was Destruction by Dialectic. My website, like Will was saying, got taken down, so you can't go there. But if you wait a while, it should be back up. What we have going on is they're going in and looking for code that the hacker left and trying to take that out, and then putting in malware with firewall so that they can't come back in and hijack it again.
Yeah, we'll have that. Hopefully, I'm hoping, I have faith that we will have your website back up by the time this video airs, because all we have to do is move it over to a different server, and I think that will clear the problem. So pentrax.com is where you can find the article. I'll also specifically link to the article in this video. The top link is going to be Fritz's GoFundMe. I need all you guys to take a second, because this guy has put his life in peril to give you this information, and Fox News, CNN, they're not going to give you this stuff right here. So this is the guy that predicted it all, continuing to lay it on the line for you guys. So links are in the description. Go to his GoFundMe. Let him know Fake Mike sends you. Give a few bucks. People think nothing of spending $20, $40, $60 ordering pizza on a weekly basis. Instead of doing that, send $60, $100, $200 to Fritz Springmeier. You got $5? Hey, send $5 to Fritz Springmeier. This guy's put his life on the line. And when you put your life on the line, you don't get a contract to do commercials. You don't get a contract to consult for the military-industrial complex. That just doesn't happen, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? It would be nice. Honestly, I would love to live in a world where Fritz Springmeier was doing the Super Bowl halftime commercial, because then we wouldn't be doing this video. The world would be changed, and we'd all be eating vegan tacos. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So support Fritz on the links. And yeah, so tell us about this article, Fritz.
Yeah, what it is it's talking about how the Awake community is being misled. I hear a lot of people in the Awake community just looking at Putin as a great Christian, somebody who's going to take it, who's fighting the world order. You know, people. Putin was a friend of Henry Kissinger, and in his home many years before the world even found out about him. He was also a friend and protege of Klaus Schwab, who's Illuminati. Putin is a member of an Illuminati Lodge. There's 36 Lodges around the world. And if you look at, like, his former chief of staff was a member of the World Economic Forum. His oligarchs, back before he invaded Ukraine, his oligarchs were financially supporting the World Economic Forum, and about a dozen of them would show up each year at Davos, which is in Switzerland. And so you'll see that they are tightly connected with the Illuminati. They're tightly connected with the World Economic Forum. And there's a lot of strange things going on. And it hurts me. It saddens me that so many people are being sucked into this dialectic. And don't be sucked into the dialectic. Stay above it, because what the Illuminati does, it's their pattern, it's their modus operandi. They create controlled conflict. And in previous talks, I've talked about how they took the script to create Hitler, and they basically dusted it off and tweaked it a little bit and created Putin. And Putin is like a Hitler image. He has his own Mein Kampf, which was not written by him, but then Hitler's Mein Kampf wasn't either. It's the Third Empire, Russia as it ought to be, you know, and that is giving the pattern of what Russia's been doing, you know, step by step. They've, you know, they invaded Chechnya. They've been doing step by step what this book says. And that's one of the things that I wanted to discuss, and I may just jump right in and discuss it, is about the Ukraine war, because I've been following it. It's one of the, if people are calling it the biggest war since World War II, and in some ways it definitely is. But what happened when what happened in World War II? In 1941, June 22nd, the Axis powers led by Germany invaded Russia under what was called Operation Barbarossa. There are 3.8 million Axis troops in 180 divisions. They moved in, and in those first few months of 1941, Russia lost 45 million troops. Now, like 23 million of those were captured or missing. But that's a lot of troops to lose, 45 million. I said that wrong. 4.5 million is what I'm trying to say. 4.5 million. Overall, during the entire war, Russia lost 27 million people. So 4.5 million people lost in those first few months of Operation Barbarossa. Did they stop? No. And so people are thinking, well, the Russians are losing a lot. The Mobics that they mobilized and gave 1 week of training are being used as cannon fodder, and they're losing a lot. Russia can take a lot of punishment, people. And if you look at the U.S. military's estimate, they say Russia's lost 150,000. You look at the Ukraine estimates, they figure that Russia's lost like 350. It doesn't matter whether you use Ukraine's figures or United States military's figures. Russia's got a long ways to go before they get punished like they were in World War II. And they kept going in World War II. Granted,
just in the Stalingrad alone, they lost over 1 million people, including civilians. I mean, just in one battle. So 350,000 is nothing.
Yeah. The Russians are willing to take a lot of abuse. And yes, granted, this war is not as popular as the Great Patriotic War of World War II, because a lot of Russians don't want to invade what used to be part of the USSR, and they have relatives and friends there in the Ukraine. Granted, but 75% of the Russian people back Putin, and they believe whatever Putin says. Now, we did a show, Will, where it was when COVID first came out, and all I said is that they were going to run an agenda behind it, and they pulled it down. So that, you know,
don't say the word. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I didn't even say much.
Yeah, no, and it's great. Yeah, they took it right down.
Yeah. So there's a lot that you can't say, but yeah, this Ukraine war is a great war for the Illuminati because it's accomplishing a lot of goals for the Illuminati. It's been created by the Illuminati. It's controlled conflict. It's Hegelian dialectic. So don't be sucked into the dialectic. And this thing's not going to end very soon. It's gonna put the world through the mill. And I want to talk too about what Davos, the 2023 Davos World Economic Forum meeting discussed, and I also want to talk about this digital prison that they're building for us. And so going back, reminding you that God's still on the throne. The Spirit of God's moving wherever He can. He's allowing man to discover that we're not capable of taking care of ourselves without Him. And they're allowing His enemies to self-destruct, and the gospel's going out to the world. So don't become disillusioned and dispirited. I see people who are giving up hope. Almost every day I see people that are giving up hope, and that's not a good thing. If you go to Davos, just to become a member of the World Economic Forum costs $52,000, and that's by invitation. And then to go to their meeting at Davos, World Economic Forum meeting, that again is by invitation, and it costs $19,000. So these people are putting in some money to be part of all of this. Moscow themselves had a World Economic Center for the fourth world.
Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, and I've discussed that in the past too. This fourth industrial revolution, and maybe we'll get into some of that. So Putin's endorsed the World Economic Forum. His people around him have supported it. So people wake up to all of this and don't get sucked in. Now there are four things
here on Putin. People talk about how Putin kicked out the banksters and the oligarchs, but if you go and check right now, anybody can go and check right now, Rothschild Incorporated is still operating in Russia. So that should tell you all that you really need to know about that. And just to double down on what you said, Fritz, before you continue, this is exactly right. It's a perfect banker's war. And I honestly thought this war wouldn't even happen, and now it's happening, and they thought it was going to be over like this. But no, do you think the military-industrial complex and the bankers want this war to be over with fast? No, why? We can send them some brand new tanks. We can send them some Tomahawk missiles. We can send them some this and some that, So, and that also ties into inflation as well. But yeah, just to double down on what you're saying, Fritz, you're absolutely right in everything that you're saying.
Yeah, I'm watching real closely how it's going, and they're sustaining Ukraine to stay in the fight. But, Ukraine continues to plead, give us what we need to win. You're dribbling it to us. You're just giving it to us at a rate that we can continue fighting. You probably heard in the news, Will, that Ukraine's getting over 400 tanks. Well, that sounds really great, but then when you start looking at the details, a lot of these tanks aren't going to get to them for another 6 months.
Yeah.
So
and always the risk here too that, honestly, as much as I totally agree with you about Putin, how he's not what these people think he is, he's also showing a certain amount of restraint in a way too, because this is a proxy war right here. This is a legit proxy war. We're giving them weapons and everything. And there's U.S. military contractors that are out there, right? There's CIA that's out there. There's U.S. military personnel that are in Ukraine. What happens one day when one of those people accidentally gets shot or accidentally blows themselves up on a mishap? this has the potential to start World War III.
Yeah, it could escalate, and that's one of the fears that they peddle, and a lot of people are trembling because they're afraid of this. But I think that they're I think that they've got it set up because they, like I said right in the opening, they want people to be afraid. They want to scare us out of our wits. And so people look at what fears they're peddling and pay attention to that. And
good point.
A lot of these fears are just manufactured. They're, but maybe I should get into what Davos was talking about. They, in their meeting, they said that in the next 2 years, there will be, I mean, they didn't say this as a possibility, but they said there will be like a global cyber attack, So what does cybersecurity really mean? It means a police state force, because if they're going to protect us, we're going to be thrown into a police state. But what would happen if there was a cyber attack? I mean, let's try to imagine that. Okay, so much stuff is now hinging on computers. If the computers go down, what's going to happen? Trucks careening off the road, all kinds of factories and plants going down, the electrical grid going down. What happens if the electrical grid goes down? I mean, most people aren't really prepared to deal with something like that. What happens if you can't go to your stores and buy things? Well, then what will the government do? They'll probably set up some place where everybody can go and be allocated food. But if you're going to go to some FEMA food distribution place, they're going to have conditions on that. They're going to, they're going to be, yeah. Will says maybe they'll be.
Hey, don't say it. You guys know. What's going to happen? Instead of saying the Our Father, it's going to be like, can I have some bread, please? What's the password? I believe in climate change, Greta Thunberg, overpopulation. I make sure I get all my what's on time. And Bill Gates, and Donald Trump, and Joe Biden are the best. There you go, Will. Yo, it's funny because it's true. And I'm laughing because I probably, my other defense mechanism would be to curl up and go to sleep, because it's especially poignant because what you've been saying is so true. And it's like, that's the Bertrand Russell, UNESCO, H.G. Wells, the Council on Foreign Relations, these people, Zbigniew Brzezinski, David Rockefeller, these people all wrote it in their books. Carolyn Quigley, Tragedy and Hope, Anglo-American Establishment, they all wrote this stuff in their books 100 years ago, what we're seeing now. And Fritz has been pointing it out to us, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. And just to see it happening now, it's just so bizarre to hear Fritz say this. It's true. You're going to have to toe the line, because look at the climate that we're already in. They wanted to refuse you service if you didn't at the hospital. They didn't care if you died. And now I'm not even going to get into it. But that's what's going to happen when you have the government control everything. They've already been floating universal basic income, and when inflation is getting out of control, right? So when you get your government bread, you're gonna have to bow to your government master and lick the government's boot. And I'm not doing it. I'd rather die. I'd rather starve to death. Sorry, Fritz.
So yeah, so when you see people like this, like Bill Gates says, "Oh, I think that such and such is going to happen," well, yeah, because these people are spending a lot of money and effort to make these things happen. So my question is are the elite going to engineer a cyber attack and then, false flag, blame it on somebody else? What do we have coming up here? And so, but they were cautiously optimistic about the economy. And this is another thing that's interesting, is because back in the late 90s, when people first started talking about Y2K, Will, I noticed that the first people to start talking about it were like bankers and stuff. These are people connected to the system, and I was like highly suspicious. I had my guard up. But of course, I didn't want to be cast out of the awake community, so I had to go along to some degree with Y2K being a big event. I got a book which was in line with my thinking, and that is it had all the different levels of scenarios from nothing happening to the worst problem. And then that's the way I would talk to people. I'd say, well, it could be from nothing to the collapse of the world. In the event, the wake community looked kind of ridiculous because not much happened. Well, in the last few months, there have been all these people that are predicting, especially in the wake community, the economy is going to crash November, the economy is going to crash December, economy is going to crash January. Well, January's come and gone, hasn't. Now that they're looking forward to June, the economy is going to crash in June. And I could talk for hours about why it could very well crash. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it could crash. I mean, it's not a far-fetched idea. There's all these bubbles and blah, blah, blah. But I see some suspicious characters warning us, and it makes me feel like we're in another Y2K situation where they're kind of stringing us along and getting the awake community to go, oh, the world's going to end, the sky is falling, and then it won't happen like that. Maybe it will, maybe we come June, we'll be in a terrible thing. I felt like for us to get the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, they're going to have everything collapse. And, recently people that had money in Bank of America, which I used to use, which is one of their banks, Bank of America confiscated money that they had. And then when they would try to contact the bank, they would get the runaround. I mean, I can believe it. I used to bank with Bank of America, so I can just see the scenario. Okay, yeah, but does that mean that the whole banking system's going to crash? I don't know. Definitely study it out, but people be aware that maybe we're being strung along. And maybe the World Economic Forum does have reason to be cautiously optimistic about the global economy. They did mention that they were concerned about the China's debt, and China does have a lot of debt. And Christine Lagarde, who's she's the president of the European Central Bank, she said that globally they want inflation to be down to 2%. Now, that she can say that, but whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. Again, you see all these Illuminati characters on the stage at the World Economic Forum. But if the world's economy was going to totally collapse in next month or so forth, it seems to me like the World Economic Forum would look like a bunch of, I hate to use the word fools, but it would certainly leave egg on their face, make them look like they don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, they did talk about a new credit system for us. This will be from 0 to 1,000, and your credit score will be tied in to your social credit score. And they're already in the United States tracking your social credit score, and a few airplane tickets are even showing your carbon footprint. And in China, they're using this. So the Christians that are standing spiritually strong in China have to deal with this social credit system, where if you're not politically correct and doing what the government wants, you're basically locked out of things. And that's where, if I can find it,
And while you look for that, Fritz, I just want to remind everybody to find the links in the description. Visit pentrax.com. You can get the aforementioned articles. You can also purchase Fritz's books. So if you're a newcomer to this information, you can find out who these people actually are, what their intentions are, and you can read in black and white all of Fritz's predictions. Also, make sure you support the GoFundMe. Fritz has been under constant attack, as we've documented here before. So please go over there and support. And you know, as you're talking about everything happening with the World Economic Forum, to inflation, to Ukraine, it's very powerful, because you predicted all these systems that are now currently in play, and now that they're here, it's like you said everything was going to happen. It happens, and then not only do you not get the credit, but it's just like regular everyday stuff. They've been able to massage it into a way where it's been normalized, and that's my fear for the future too. Is we're going to want the future so bad. We're going to want that Neuralink in our head so bad. We're going to want to be able to use eugenics, to use CRISPR to, you know, pick our babies out and make sure this happens. We're going to want to make sure that we play our part as a good citizen for our carbon allowance, and to reduce overpopulation. So we turn on all of our lights and we eat the bugs, and you know, we do all the things that the World Economic Forum wants. And that's something that's very important to note that Fritz has talked about. It. Fritz has documented not only these people, but from his own interactions and his own experience and his own research about how, okay, how do we get a global government? How do we do this? Okay, how does that happen? Well, we can't just pick something that's good for a topic that's important to Americans, or people from South Africa, or people from the Congo, or people from Denmark, or people from Singapore, and on and on and on. It has to be a global problem. What's a global problem? Climate change, overpopulation, right? And pollution. So they pull all of these things together. And this is what they created with the United Nations, with UNESCO. And now it's just continuing to happen. And the scientific technocratic elite, which they predicted, all those same names, Aldous and Julius Huxley, Bertrand Russell, all these same people, they predicted it's now here. And people are actually talking about, well, you know, democracy is not such a good idea. And we live in a constitutional republic, and I'm not even a statist. Democracy is it's not such a good idea, you know, because nobody trusts the experts. So maybe we had a scientific dictatorship. This is like all out in the open. Please continue, Fritz. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So touching upon, you were talking about that climate change and green agenda. So going back to Davos, interrupting my train of thought here to go back to Davos 2023 meeting that they just had. Skull and Bones John Kerry went there, and he talked and real big that we need to spend lots of money on climate change. So yeah, they're pushing that. So so I said that there were 4 things in previous talks. I've talked about 4 things that I see 4 components to this digital prison that they're creating. The first one is the CBDC, which is central bank digital currency, which is just like in Revelations, you can't buy or sell without it. And then the second component is the facial recognition and the digital ID that they're creating. We'll talk some about that. And then the beast computers, and then all these agendas that they're running, the vaccines, the sustainability, global warming, the smart cities, the mega smart cities that they want, their green agendas. And so along that line is what I'm reading. This our local electric company puts out a magazine, And then their article is New Year, Smarter Home. So they're pushing smart appliances.
Smart everything.
And they say SMART was originally an acronym for self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology. Now they do come in here with something that I thought was a little disclaimer, which I was glad that they did slip in. Just because a product is smart, don't assume it's energy efficient. But they talk about geofencing, which they make it sound good, but it isn't really. And then they talk about your appliances being smart. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to start charging higher rates when there's higher periods of higher electrical usage, right? And then that's going to encourage people to get smart washing machines so they can be scheduled for the off-peak energy time. And think this through, people. So your refrigerator is going to be smart. Your washing machine is going to be smart. What can they already do with people's cars? If you step into a car and you steal it, they can lock the doors and shut the car off remotely. Well, all of these appliances can be remotely controlled. So now the world order has you've just given them the ability, if they don't want you washing your clothes, they can shut your washing machine off. They don't want you to have food in your refrigerator, shut your refrigerator off. You're just creating a digital, you're just increasing this digital prison that they're creating for you. So I was very encouraged that, at one point in my life, I was old order Amish Mennonite. That's some people call them plain people. And the plain people, there's more plain people than just old order Amish. But they have a magazine called The Vanguard, and I was pleased to see that in the Vanguard they had articles, especially an article about the CBDC. And, like you were saying, we're going to eat bugs. We're all going to be poor because they're going to have this UBI, Universal Basic Income. Everybody's going to have a basic income, which will make some people that don't like to work happy. But for those of us who are not politically correct, who want to honor God, or we don't want to be slaves to the system, we're going to be outside of the system. We won't be able to buy or sell. So start contemplating what that means, people. What's it mean? If it, are you going to have people that you can barter with? Or, what are you going to do when we're outside of the, because the government's going to be able to control your bank account. And if you even have a bank account at that time, by that time. And then the third thing was the beast computers. And did I talk on this show about how the beast computers are really Kabbalistic prophecy?
No, you definitely did not. I would remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Get it,
Well,
please.
Yeah, so there was a woman, Edith Starr Miller. Her pen name was spacing off her pen name. Anyway, Lady Queensborough, and she wrote Occult Theocracy. It was actually published after she died posthumously. So there's some mistakes in it, but it's really good. And when I started researching the Illuminati, the World Order, way back a number of decades ago, her book was selling for $300 or more. It was a rare book. But anyway, her book goes in and explains how all these different secret societies like the Freemasons, the basic foundation to their doctrine is the Kabbalah. It's Kabbalistic knowledge, right? And Kabbalistic prophecy, the Vilna Gaon prophesied back in the 1700s that in the end times there would be what we call the beast computers, these super machines that knew everything, that could control everything. And according to Kabbalistic thought, that this is going to be mankind's salvation. Well, no, it's not our salvation to have the world run by these beast computers. But it certainly is in line with what the Freemasons have been working toward. And so the fourth part, the fourth component is their agendas. And maybe I have or haven't said on our show about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that were signed in the United Nations by every country that there is. Every country. There was not a single country that didn't sign in on this. And if you look at those 17 Sustainable Development Goals, I wrote down a few. One is gender equality. Well, you know what that's going to be, LGBT, you know. Quality education, you know what that's going to be. We can see what quality education is now. They're just programming people, you know, it's social engineering. They're not teaching reading, writing, arithmetic anymore. Sustainable cities, well, we know what that is, green and smart. It's where they're putting in these LED lights, you know. What are these LED lights going to do? Well, they're going to damage your eyes, but they also have the potential to, because of the way they're built, they can actually hit you with radar, and they can immobilize or kill you. So they're building up this prison structure all around us, and people don't even realize what's going on. They are using our cell phones and a lot of other things to install cameras. And there's 50 million cameras in the United States that are hooked to the internet. So they're able to watch everything. Your cell phone listens to you even when it's shut off. You know, it watches you. It has facial recognition software. And they had voice recognition software that was that worked with the beast computers in the 1970s that recognized everybody's voice. They already had that. I know that's a little shocking for people to realize that if you talked on the phone back then, that they listened in and that was used to track you and but if you think about it, everything that's important, a person blabs on their phone. If they're going to do something, they call and tell their mom or their wife or what, you know. People give a lot of their life away on their cell phone, and that's all being tracked. So another one of their another one of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals is responsible consumption, you know, which would be a carbon footprint, you know, or you know, they're saying that animals are dangerous. You know, they've given a bad name to chickens, you know, like chickens are going to kill Mother Earth, you know, cows are going to kill Mother Earth, you know. And so I will promote to people somebody's information that counters those lies. Joe Salatin, he's into permaculture. He believes that animals and plants can coexist. Not only can they coexist, but they need each other. They're part of the whole ecosystem. And he has a number of books. One of them is Polyface Micro. So look into his book. He has a farm where he shows how animals can be used to sequester carbon into the land, into the ground, and sheep can be carbon neutral. So all this propaganda that they're giving you that these animals are going to destroy the planet, it's just their way of taking away what we have to live with. so that we're stressed and dependent on them. You know, they're trying to starve us basically and kill us. How much time do you want to spend? Because that'll give me a little bit of an idea of how much I should go into some of these things. Will, can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, take as much time as you need, Fritz.
I mean, I can go. Have we been on about an hour?
Yeah, we're about 55 minutes right now. And just to let you guys know, I'm gonna give Fritz the floor again for a second because I have had kidney stones 4 times in my life. So I'm gonna run to the bathroom and then wash my hands. But I'm gonna let Fritz continue. And Fritz is as long as you want to take on this.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, people, I've been given the show here. Back in 2014, the Illuminati was hoping that they could recruit me. They didn't succeed. But as a token, as a gesture of their goodwill, they allowed me to ask questions and were answering the questions honestly. They were hoping that I would write a history of the Illuminati, which would give it some credibility because it wouldn't be written by them. It would be written by someone like myself. But in the event, it didn't happen because I'm myself and I can't deny who I am for them. But anyway, in the course of going back and forth and communicating with them, I got an email dated 11 February 2014 that discusses how they created Bitcoin. I thought I would read it because a lot of people don't realize where Bitcoin came from. And one of their Illuminati kingpins explained to me where Bitcoin came. That because of the power of the National Security Agency and the banking system doing what it wants, the Illuminati needed something to control these curious puppets. So see, he's saying that the NSA and the banking system are puppets of the Illuminati. Yes, they are. But they still have a mind of their own, unfortunately. They're not totally controlled. So then he goes on. 10 years ago, the Illuminati needed an open source and a key cryptography system to control the curiosity. With a budget of 10 million, the Illuminati influenced several inventors, programmers, designers to work on the project. After 2 years of hard labor, the program was perfectly elaborated, but this product needed a founder, Satoshi Nakamoto. It means wise person with intelligent ancestors. This thing doesn't exist anywhere in the world, and it isn't registered to a living or even to a dead person. The founder was born, if you can call it that way. Next step, a company in 2009, Bitcoin was created. Bitcoin has been created by American university professors, IT developers, and system designers. They got well paid for their efforts, and some of them even received a new identity. Isn't that interesting? They had to give them a new identity. Why? Okay. It's because everything about Bitcoin isn't on the up and up. You know, and the moral, and then he continues, the moral of this reality, Americans designed an engine to F themselves. Yeah. So those people that think Bitcoin is something safe, you know, all this technology that's being rolled out is going to save us. No, this technology that's being put out is for them. Anything that's, quote, ahead of its time that they don't like, technology they don't like, they suppress. I know of all kinds of technology. The inventors have come to me, you know, and said, oh, if I can get this out, you know, this free energy system, it will save the world. Well, guess what? It hasn't. They've suppressed it. And what's this, Will?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's what happens to somebody that gets a. Hey, I can make a car run off water. Hey, like
Yeah.
that's happening to those type of people, unfortunately.
Yeah. So to back up what this Illuminati kingpin wrote me, if you go to Wiki, and Wiki is not the gold standard of information, but uh, in this particular case, Wiki was on track. Wiki has an article on Bitcoin. They say Bitcoin was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, which is a pseudonym for person or persons who designed the original Bitcoin protocol and launched the network in 2009. The real identity of Satoshi Nakamoto still remains a matter of dispute. And then they go on to explain how Bitcoin uses blockchain, where nobody can hack it. It leaves a permanent digital record. And see, that's pretty important because see, the all your information is on blockchain, people. Everything. And it can't be erased. It's there permanently. All your information, everything about you. And also another thing that the Illuminati is putting on blockchain is illegal porn. And that can't be, that's embedded in blockchain, but there's no way to wipe it out. So
Yeah, Fritz, what you talked about years ago, just to back you up, just so, in case there's any new listeners here, and I'm hoping there are because people are sharing the video and donating to Fritz's GoFundMe. Just to back you up, you've been talking about decentralized currency for decades. And, this is just a theory. I can't back this up, but I do believe that, as you said, there's a record of everything that happens on Bitcoin. And I believe Bitcoin may, and this is just a theory, I can't prove this, but I think Bitcoin may be more to get us acclimated towards the central bank digital currencies as opposed to what people claim it was, which is to create independence from these banks. What it's really become is quite the opposite. Now, there are some things, and I'm not a financial advisor, like Pirate Chain, where you can still do things the old-fashioned way. But yeah, I do believe that this whole Bitcoin stuff was to get us on the blockchain, getting us used to the Internet of Things, the smart toasters, the smart everything, and to get us acclimated to these central bank digital currencies.
So just to give you a little peek behind the curtains, Quant, which is both a software as well as a company, stands for Quantitative Analysis. Short is Quant or QNT.
Holy shit, Fritz.
It's controlling and energizing the digital financial ecosystem wholly. So everything, the Swift banks, the cryptocurrencies, the Internet of Things, the blockchain, IBM company, PayPal, you name it, Ripple, they're all controlled by Quant.
Fritz, you know your stuff, bro. It's funny just because Fritz, I know this dude. He's a young kid. You know how the young kids, they wear the beanies no matter how hot it is. It could be like 100 degrees or it could be wintertime and they'll still wear a winter hat. He's one of those kids. But he nobody knows about Quant. When you start talking about Quant, like this 22-year-old kid was talking to me about Quant, who's like this savant. And the fact that you bring that up, Fritz, it impresses me even more. Like absolutely crazy. You guys really need to share this video, and you need to support the links in the description because this is blowing me away. This is probably the best Fritz Springmeier interview I've ever personally been a witness to. I've except for his other presentations, which were not interviews. But please continue because what you're saying is blowing my mind, Fritz. This is amazing.
Well, they're creating these smart city grids that are integrated with 5G, that integrated in with the underground cables, and they have these LED incapacitators. So they look like a concert light. They got red, blue, and that's what I was talking about. These incapacitator LED lights can be ramped up to even kill a person. So there's a zero trust. When you go to prison, you enter into a zero trust environment. And that's what that's what they even use the word zero trust. So in this digital prison that they're building for us, you will have zero trust. And you will have to establish that trust by being their little peon, their little, can I call it servant or politically correct slave? And yeah, I know a lot of us slave for the man already, but they're going to take it to a new level. And where they can even arrest you ahead of time. You know, it's called predictive policing. That's where AI anticipates a crime because they know what your thoughts are. So it's called pre-crime, and so they can predict if you're even thinking of doing a crime and then just arrest you. You know, that's where we're going. Before we wrap this up, I might say some things that I've never talked about. I made a list and I lost the list, so I'm kind of just talking off the top of my head. But there's a number of things that the Illuminati's been doing in secret. I've been trying to track these things, and I think in the future, sometime, I don't know, it might be a century down the line. I'm not saying this is going to happen in the immediate future. I'm talking long term if the world lasts that long. In the long term, eventually these things that they're doing in secret, they will bring it out to the public. You know, I can't give you the exact timetable, but you got mind transfer. You know, on the robotoids, they've been transferring minds to make copies of people like Hillary Clinton. Time travel. They got a pseudo immortality. It's a pseudo form of immortality. I gave a whole talk on that at Free Your Mind conference. So if you can find the video on that, you know, yeah, watch it. It's a good one. Infusion energy for and transport and stuff. There's a number of things that and that's not the. I had a longer list of things, but I thought I would titillate people that there's a lot of things being done in secret that at some point are going to be brought out in the light. So they use these technologies for their advantage, and they don't want technology out there that is going to work against them. Now, of course, the internet has been kind of a two-edged sword. We're using the internet to expose them, but you know, how long are we going to be able to do that? And like I say, we're moving towards where Red China is, where the internet is very strongly controlled, and so let's enjoy this while we can. Is there something else that I want to? No, I think we've got it at a good hour, around an hour, and that's probably a good time frame, because if you go longer than that, it gets to be too long for people.
I agree.
And there's a lot to chew on here.
Yeah.
And I just encourage people to go to the Word of God and think about what faith is. Okay, faith is not something that you logically figure it out. When David went up against Goliath, it wasn't logical that he could win. And the people around him were using logic. They're like, well, you need a big sword. You need all this armor. He's like, no, God's behind me. I know that he'll work with me if I use this stone, and I'm going to use what I've used before, and God's going to be with me. You know, that's faith. When you know what God wants and what he will do, and you move forward in that. You know, I'm not saying that it's willful, wishful thinking. Oh, I want this, so therefore it's going to happen. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But it says in the Word of God that faith overcomes the world, or by extension, faith overcomes the world order or new world order. So people figure out what faith is and move forward courageously with it.
Absolutely. And also, yeah, you know, enjoy it while you can. I've been saying on my videos, Fritz has been talking about this for decades and decades. Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can just sit here on your comfy. And I'm not talking down to anybody here because I do the same thing. I do the very same thing. But enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can just sit there from the comfort of your own home on your TV or your laptop, or maybe you're out on the go and you're listening to Fritz here on your cell phone, right? Enjoy it while you can. We need to do something non-violently now, yesterday. I've been saying we need to do something for a long time. I'm having a protest April 7th, the Federal Reserve Bank. It's going to be on the public sidewalk. We're going to be nonviolent. We need to do something. We need to get off our butts and do something. Even if it's just as minuscule as sharing the video, as sharing Fritz's GoFundMe after you donated, after sharing the articles on Pentrax.com, after reading Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier and then giving the book to somebody and saying, hey, tell me what you think when you're finished. Don't say, hey, this, that. Just say, hey, tell me what you think. Curious to see what you think when you're finished. So enjoy this while you can, because even before the events of the last several years happened, we were at a maximum sense of urgency. And now this country, whatever you think about how it was created, it was supposedly created because we all have unalienable rights that cannot be taken from us. And with the events of the last couple of years, when you saw people arrested for possession of drugs, arrested for weapons, arrested for going to church, arrested for opening their gyms, you can tell we don't have rights. We have privileges. So the time is now for you guys to do something. And Fritz has put his life on his line, his finances, his health on the line for decades upon decades. So please support the links there and enjoy it while you can. Get this video out while you can. I've already been before. Fritz has been before, like 9 times. I've been on a bunch of platforms. Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can. These are the reason I do these other videos, so that when we have an incredibly important video like this, I have thousands of videos on the internet. This is arguably the most important, definitely top 5 most important video I've ever done. And I've done this video with some dope people, some really dope people with incredibly important information. So enjoy while you can, guys. To get active and to do something non-violently. We believe in creating a more altruistic world through nonviolence and the Socratic method. Fritz, God bless you. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Guys, get the video out. Support all the links in the description. And stay tuned. We need to do our part here, because all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing. Fake Mike Rodas.
Thanks, Will.